Welcome everybody to Midtown TV with Jesse Miller. We're coming to you live as always from the Dot Studio here in Miami, Florida. Welcome to our studio audience. We love it when you guys show up. Welcome to our millions and billions of internet viewers. Thank you guys for watching today. We've got Miss Lindsay Miller in the chat room making sure that all of your questions will be answered live. Man, what a great show we've got for you tonight. Tonight we're going to bring you not just highlights, but the actual breakdown of the studio we built to record the St. Kitts Music Festival 2014. The artists were absolutely incredible, and if I might say, the crew were pretty good too. Big shout outs to some guys like Mr. Dean Johnson, Mr. Squigley, who was on camera, Matt Kennedy on the jib. Anyway, everybody worked really hard to bring you guys a multi-camera, high-definition production that will really make the St. Kitts Island sing to the tourists. It was the tourism board who hired the production crew to put this video together. So, before we get into the breakdown of how we built the studio and what equipment we selected in order to, make this production happen, let me give you guys a little taste of the festival. So to set it up, on Reggae Night, Tarrus Riley had an outstanding performance, and my favorite part of his performance was when he did some covers of another reggae favorite of mine. So, without further ado, Verge.
Don't wanna give you my heart, don't wanna take it back. Well, this is my chat. Hush. How him sound? Sound good, right? Come here, aye. Hush, Mr. Music, mellow. Him sound good. I just have one little problem with his presentation. He told a little lie. He said, this is my chat, and that's not his chat, because that's not his song. Whose song is that? Who? But that's not how Buju sound. Come here, my youth. You see, when you're representing Buju Banton, you can't be a kitty cat. I'm not saying that you are. You have to be a lion. You have to roar. Buju roar, right? You me know. Watch it. This one is called Love and Style. Never know you would have really been so nice, but I don't want to let you go. When you are me, no worry. Oh no, this one is called Love and Style. I never know you would have really been so nice, but I don't. Hear me now. Say kiss, hey you're so young. We go. Free government. Boy, it's not an easy road. And men they see the glamour and the glitter. Them think I made a rose, boy. Well, look, feels enough. Whoa, Lord, help me sustain these blows.
That was totally awesome. As much as I love Tarrus Riley, I love Buju Banton, and to see that cover was great. I just want to give a quick hello to Mr. AJ in the chat room, chatting in all the way from St. Kitts. He was running the projectors from Pro Video Supplies, and also our favorite Bulgarian fan, Miroslav Nikolov. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's great to hear from you. So that was a taste of what our 3-camera HD production looked like. So in order to help you guys understand what it took to create recordings like that, let's take a walk into Midtown Video's training studio, shall we? Great, so here we are. you know, it's nighttime in New York behind us, but even closer than the window, right behind us, we've got sort of slide number 1 of what it takes to build the studio. And where we're going to start today is with cameras. So when people tell me about multi-camera HD production, but they want it done on a budget, my go-to camera is the PMW EX3. Now, you guys watched that Taurus Riley clip. You know that we had a lot of motion going on. So that was provided by Matthew Kennedy and Bad Dog Jib Company. He flew down to St. Kitts a 24-foot Jimmy Jib. Pretty awesome. The other 2 cameras that we had, one was shoulder mounted on the stage, that was Squidly, and then Jeremy Rogers, DP extraordinaire, had our 3rd PMW EX3, which was set up sort of on a camera riser on a tripod. Now, some of those shots, there was a little bit of vibration. That's because we couldn't get a proper camera riser. We kind of had to make do with what we could. They threw a scaffolding together, people were leaning on it, and these are the kinds of challenges you have in a live environment, but Jeremy rolled with it and produced some outstanding work. So, back to our 3 cameras. PMW EX3s. Why do I like them? 2 great reasons. Number 1, HD SDI output, so we can run a beautiful digital signal 300 feet without a problem. And number 2, time code input, so we can link up all 3 cameras to, you know, to do ISO recordings on the same time code. So let me set the scene for you as far as deliverables are concerned. On the one hand, the production company, Frame by Frame Productions, is going to turn in a 60-minute and a 30-minute version of the, you know, this is our week in St. Kitts, which was really cool. In order to do that, they're interspersing some B-roll, some artist interviews, and some tourism shots with the live footage from the concert. So thinking down the road, we're turning in a 60-minute and a 30-minute program. That means you're going to have not just the live cut from the concert, but also ISOs from the cameras to cover up any sort of, you know, mistakes that you might make during the live switch. So in order to get that done properly, you definitely need time code in all your cameras. So you'll notice we've got the green lines coming out of our cameras, which is HD SDI back to Video Village, and the pink lines coming in, which is time code going into the cameras to keep everything synced up. Now, our stage camera and our tripod camera are no problem. That's HD SDI coming out and time code coming in. But the camera on top of the jib, it was a little bit more complicated. Why? Well, when you're 24 feet away from your EX3, you have to add a couple extra components. First of all, the RMB 150. What that does is give the jib operator control of the iris of the camera. So we're not doing a full CCU setup here. We didn't really have the budget to throw, you know, that kind of dough at it. So we're doing the best we can. We RMB 150 it. In this case, you'd be buying an RMB 170, but you know, rental department stuff. Slower turnover. RMB 150. Iris control remotely from 30 to 300 feet away from your camera. We only needed a 30-foot cable so that Matt, you know, operating the jib, has his pan and tilt controls right here, and just right next to it is the RMB 150 to give him iris controls. Then, of course, you see down here a zoom controller. Now, this is optional. What we did was we left the original lens on our PMW EX3. We screwed a wide-angle adapter onto it because wide-angle shots from the jib are just more impressive. But in order to get zoom control, we brought a VariZoom with us that had a 25, 30-foot extension to go from Matt's controls all the way up to the camera. Now, there's another way to go about this. We could have taken the lens off of the EX3, put on a Fujinon ACM21 adapter, and put like a proper wide-angle lens from a broadcast camera on there. That way, all of Matt's original jib controls, the Fuji gear or the Canon gear, would work, and he could use all his sort of first-party zoom and focus controls. We didn't do it that way. We saved a couple bucks so that the festival could spend it on the really awesome artists like Capleton, Tessanne Chin, and Beanie Man, who you'll see coming up later. So that meant the crew had to skimp with the VariZoom zoom controller. Also, in the camera side is right behind me. Now, I would love to sort of show it to you, but as you can see, I'm a little bit constrained in space. So, Verge, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on my skateboard and maybe go for a little skate here. Yes? Yes? Okay, fantastic. Now, we can point back to our audio section. So, you'll see that in Video Village, we've got this Mackie 1604 mixer. Why? Why can't we just take the house audio feed? Well, if we took the house audio feed, every time Taurus Riley pointed that microphone at the audience and they were singing, you wouldn't hear anything back. Because house audio is really trying to make the band sound good. But we are doing the human experience mix. So every time he said, you know, let me hear you scream, and they would scream, we had to make sure that we would capture that. So over here you see that we put 2 ECM 673s aimed at the crowd. So those guys needed phantom power. Therefore, we needed a nice proper mixer that could supply the phantom power. So we've got 4 audio feeds to deal with. 2 from house audio, and 1 from each of our EX3s stationed on either side of the stage, aiming right back at the audience, right? So that's our 4 audio feeds coming to the Mackie 1604, and you'll see what we do with the audio a little bit later. The last thing I've got to indicate before we leave behind our sort of front of house camera area is the lighting monitor. Lighting monitor. Okay. You know, a concert is a concert production. A concert video is really a collaboration between the sound guys, the stage guys, the video guys, and the lighting guys. So if the lighting guys can't see what our production looks like, you know, through the lens of the camera, then how are they supposed to make sure that it looks really good? So we had to run a 300-foot cable from Video Village and backstage all the way to the front of house tent where the lighting guys are operating, and we set up a 14-inch monitor so they could see what was going on. So we're doing our best to be color-coded here. You see that we've got the green for the HD SDI cables coming out of the cameras. It's also green going into the lighting monitor, all right? So that kind of wraps up what we've got in the crowd here. Verge, how about letting me canoe myself back to the other side there? Yes, we'll just row our boat back here, a little bit further. Okay, that's perfect, all right. So you see we've got pink cables, which are time code feeding into the camera. We've got green SDI cables, which is HD SDI coming out of the cameras, going into the switcher. So in a moment, we're going to show you the Video Village portion of this page. But before we go on, why don't we check out another highlight? Let's take a look at our girl, Tessanne Chin.
Say, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, no, 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 say, somehow I'm full of forgiveness. I guess it's meant to be. You want to love me. Underneath it all, I really love you. Underneath it all.
So very, very much thanks to Ms. Tessanne Chin, winner of The Voice and outstanding star at the 2014 St. Kitts Music Festival. Her performance was absolutely, totally awesome. And now you see behind us in our classroom setting the Video Village. This is where the stuff gets nasty, and you've got to have cables and cables and cables, you know, plugged in here, plugged in there, and going everywhere. But let's start at the easy side. Let's start over at the switcher. Verge, why don't I just take one giant leap to my right? Okay, nice one, nice one. So here we are. We selected the Panasonic AVHS 50N switcher for this job. It's very compact, 4 HD SDI inputs, DVI input, pretty awesome. So you see that it's got a multi-view output going to my multi-view monitor, which is, you know, vital so that I can see all my cameras at the same time, plus preview and program. You see my 3 EX3s coming right into it. And something else that's really cool about this switcher, apart from having an auxiliary output, it has dual program outputs. So it's got program 1 and program 2. Program 1, you'll notice, is connected here to my Aja FS2, the Swiss Army knife of production tools. Program 2 output actually went over to our projector guys. So AJ from Pro Video, who's in the chat room today, was operating the projectors. He took our camera feed from the secondary program output of our switcher. Pretty awesome. Right, so you see that those 3 arrows are coming in. That's because we're coming from the EX3s that were on the previous page. Also from the previous page was that mixer. That Mackie 1604, that's feeding this here big speaker. So Erin Lee, who's our technical director and one of the Midtown Video trained TriCaster operators, was sitting at this Panasonic switcher, and she had to make all of her cuts to the beat of the music. And that's really hard to do when you're sitting backstage. So what we did was borrowed a stage monitor from the audio guys who were super helpful, pumped the volume up on one of the auxiliary outputs of the Mackie 1604, and that allowed her to make all of her cuts in time to the music. How, you might ask yourself, did we make sure that all of the recordings were in time to the music? Well, tell you what, let's go for a swim this way, Verge. Let's just, yes. Yes, okay, perfect. That answer is this Aja FS2. So you see that I'm getting fed my HD-SDI video from the cameras, and what's missing here are two little arrows coming from the previous screen. That 1604 fed a left and right analog XLR input into this FS2. How can you do that, you might say? Well, with these. You kind of have to custom make these things, but there's a DB25 input for female XLRs. So we just found the pinouts to the back of the DB25 on the FS2, two female XLRs, connected it right to the output of the mixer. Also, we had to feed some audio out of the FS2, so we just made the same DB25 pin to male XLRs, followed the pinouts for the XLR output, and that FS2, man, is that handy. What did it do for us? Well, you can see right above my head. It embedded the audio from the Mackie 1604 and married it to the video coming in from the switcher program output. And it also acted as a down converter. We'll talk about down conversion a little bit later. More importantly, it's got the capabilities to delay the audio. Now, if you've done some multi-camera production before, if you've done some internet streaming, you know one of the hardest things to get over is that audio delay, because the video stuff, man, it's going into switchers, it's going into frame syncs, it's going into down converters. It's taking stops along the way and losing frames, whereas audio is just lightning fast. You know, you got to slow the audio down along with the video. So as far as the speaker is concerned, and as far as the switcher is concerned, we want live audio. We don't want anything slowed down. But when we get to our recording locations, then we definitely want audio and video to be married. So we're utilizing the audio delay capabilities of the FS2. Once the audio gets embedded into the HD-SDI feed, the HD-SDI feed comes into my HD10DA. That's from AJA. So that's a 1-in, 6-out HD-SDI distribution amplifier. So I've got my audio and video married together now. I've got a program feed with audio. The audio is in sync because we were able to delay it a little bit from the FS2. So where did the program output go? It went to two program records, because if you just have one program recorder, you're kind of working yourself into a jam. We got the Aja KeyPro here, that was our main program recorder, and then our Pix240i, also recording to a sort of a solid state drive, and that acted as our backup. So we put a 480 gig drive in the Pix240 and just let that sucker record all night long, 6 hours on a 480 gig drive. Whereas on the KeyPro, we had 3 separate drives, so we could swap drives and download the footage after each 1 hour performance from our artists. So over here we've got our backup recording, fills up the whole drive with the entire night, and here with the KeyPro, we're switching after every artist. Notice that my KeyPro definitely has a KeyPro monitor attached to it. That's just a 9-inch HD-SDI monitor to make sure that we're getting picture. Also, you plug your headphones in there, make sure you're getting audio properly, because just as important as looking at the monitor, of course, is listening to the headphones. But the Pix240i doesn't need a monitor because it's got a built-in monitor. Something else that it has built in that's very important, a timecode generator. So you see in parentheses that my Pix240 is not just doing the record, but it's also generating our timecode. We set that to be time of day and free run, and then we took the timecode output of the Pix240 right into a composite DA. And look, it's sending 3 pink timecode angles right off the page. Where do you think that's going? To the previous page. That's where all of our cameras are getting their timecode from. And also, you should see now, it's very faint, but of course, we drew in an arrow here, it's gray. The KeyPro is taking a timecode input also from the timecode distribution amplifier. Had to keep the KeyPro in sync with our other program records, otherwise why keep timecode at all? One interesting note, the KeyPro does not have a timecode generator. The only time you get timecode out of the TC out spigot of the KeyPro is if you're running timecode in or taking timecode off of somebody's SDI adapter. All right, so those are our main program records, but I've got a little bit more program recording to talk about, okay? Because apart from just our deliverable being this 60-minute and 30-minute television show, we had to turn some stuff over that very night. So every time an artist would go on, they would expect a DVD of their entire performance. DVD, that's kind of hard to do. I mean, you'd have to record the whole thing, conform it, down convert it to MPEG-2, burn it to a DVD recorder. That's too hard to do. So what did we do? We did it in real time. So take a look at this. Pull me over a little bit, Verge. Just, we'll go, yes, that's the way, perfect. So the Aja FS2, in addition to embedding audio onto our HDSDI video feed, it also did a down convert for us. So now we've got a composite feed that could go straight into one of your set-top DVD recorders. Then we took our audio output cable, that was XLR, put it into some basically direct boxes that went XLR in, RCA out, so that we could bring a line-level audio right into this DVD recorder, and there you go. You are recording live in real time a DVD so that you could then, after the show, stick it in your 10 times DVD replicator and give the band a copy, and the producer a copy, and the tourism board a copy, and the press a copy. So we had to show up ready to make some DVD copies for the guys right on the set. Additionally, when you're doing DVD recordings, you better make sure that you've got a DVD monitor, because if you hand somebody a blank DVD, it's like you didn't even do your job. So always keep a monitor on every device that needs to have video. Always plug your headphones into every device that needs audio, certainly. The last device that was receiving our HDSDI audio and video program signal was this here very sexy brand new Mac Pro. Looks like R2-D2 or maybe a garbage can. What we did was we used a Blackmagic Ultra Studio Mini recorder. So $145 device that takes HDSDI or HDMI right into your Mac Pro. We had Kareem Brown, editor extraordinaire, would capture 1, 2, 3 minutes of each artist's performance to turn into MP4s. So that at the end of the night, we had a little MP4 highlight of every single artist. We handed it right over to all the press agencies that were covering the St. Kitts 2014 Music Festival, so that nightly they were able to provide high-quality coverage from our multi-camera HD recording. That's pretty fantastic. So I mentioned a lot of data capture here. I mentioned a lot of things like, program record from the Key Pro, ISO record on the EX3s, Adobe editing from some live capture right into the Mac Pro. So I want to get into our data workflow, but before we do that, let's reward our viewers with another highlight. Let's check out Mr. Beanie Man.
You want a proper fix?
Call me,
You want to catch a kicks?
call me,
You want a cheese stick?
call me,
You want the remix?
call me.
Come on, from the other.
Hey,
We got to play some boy.
hey,
Me hear the guns, hear the guns, hear the guns calling. Just a minute.
I wanna do with the wickedest man. I need a 1, 2, 3, I'm a man. I wanna do to get the meat in his plan. I got like a man that is based on the man.
Keep it there, don't move it. Faster, faster, faster. Are you ready? No girl can't see no mommy. If I got China, she have to run me, girl. No girl can't see no. If I got China, this girl want me to be like with a crazy motion love. Let me find.
All right, man, Beanie Man, hardest working man in dancehall. He's been at this a while. His show was spectacular, spectacular. So you saw my camera set up, you saw where my jib was placed, you saw my audience microphones all in that front of house section. Now you had a look sort of under the hood at our routing and distribution section. But the work is not done there. Once we've got all that stuff on tape, so to speak, or on our cards and in our hard drives, we had to manage that data. So Verge, let's flip over to the data wrangling side. Okay, so let's just, can you give me a little bit of a, other way to go, like that. Yes, 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 all right, okay. So I had two awesome data wrangling devices with me. This fancy old MacBook Pro, the kind that had the S/S slot in it, which was awesome. And then way over there, we've got our sexy new MacBook Pro, new Mac Pro, one of the garbage cans. And those things really fly. So we were faced with our handling our clients' hard drives, and they had a couple of G drives from, let's just say, the past. So these G drives had eSATA, and they had FireWire 800 on them. 2 FireWire 800 ports, 1 eSATA port. We had one for the live cuts and one for the S/S cards, for the ISO records. So we were tasked with finding how can we most effectively, most efficiently use these machines to then capture all the footage in the middle of the show. Well, in order to do that, we borrowed very heavily on Aja's disk tool. So first, we analyzed the capacities of the laptop. Let's see the results of that in full screen, please. So here's our laptop disk drive tests. Now you'll notice if we were inserting LaCie's eSATA Express 34 adapter, so we used up the S/S slot with a dual eSATA adapter, we were getting read speeds of about 115 megs a second, and we were getting write speeds of 88 megs per second. So that was pretty fast. Now, over on the right side, you could tell that we were connecting the G drive only with a FireWire 800 cable. So that would be a case if we were to insert an S/S card to use up that slot and write off to the G drive in FireWire 800. That would be a losing proposition. The write speed was much slower, 60 megs per second, with a read speed of only 84 megs per second. So our course was clear. We were going to use the laptop to record the FireWire source. Let's jump back into our laptop NUMAC Pro studio. There we go. All right, but put me in it. Yeah. All right. So because the eSATA adapter was so much better at writing to the hard drive than the FireWire port on my computer was good at writing to the hard drive, we decided we'd eject these KeyPro drives, which are FireWire bus powered, plug them into the FireWire bus of the computer, and then we would use the eSATA adapter in the S/S slot of the computer to connect to the G drive. That way we were getting the fastest speeds we could out of this here laptop. So every time a band would finish, we'd eject a KeyPro hard drive, connect it FireWire 800 to the Mac Pro, connect the eSATA card to the G drive, and then we could offload all of our footage most efficiently. So what did we do with our S/S cards, you might say? Well, check it out right there. We were using the Sonnet Express Pro 34 adapter, which was a Thunderbolt adapter with an Express card slot in it, which is right there. That could read at about 135 megabits per second, which was way faster than we were reading even on the directly inserted S/S slot on our laptop. So you might say to yourself, well, Jesse, I know that the NUMAC Pro has Thunderbolt, and I know that it has USB 3.0, but aren't you using these G drives that have neither Thunderbolt nor USB 3.0? And I'd say, yes, you're correct about that. But we did have a couple of tricks up our sleeve. Verge, can we see the hard drive picture for the NUMAC Pro? That's it. All right, so on the left, you're going to see what the winner was. We had a StarTech cable. It was only about 30 bucks. You didn't have to plug it into power or anything. It was a direct cable that would convert USB 3.0 to eSATA. So we occupied a USB 3 slot in the back of the Mac Pro, plugged it into the eSATA input of the G drive, and we were attaining write speeds of 148 megabits per second. That was pretty outstanding. Read speeds of 142 megabits per second. Pretty good. In the center of the top row was a loser. We had an Apple-branded FireWire 800 to Thunderbolt drive, but when we plugged it in, you noticed we were only getting about 70 megabit per second write speed, even though our read speed was pretty fast. Once we had that first G drive connected, just for the heck of it, I wanted to see what a drive sort of daisy-chained off of that first one would be. Remember, these G drives that have FireWire 800 have two FireWire 800 ports, so you could connect one directly to the computer and then a further one sort of daisy-chained off of that guy. So he's on the top right where it says G drive FireWire 800 with daisy chain. You'll notice that our read and write speeds didn't suffer at all being on that FireWire chain, which is pretty awesome. Now, of course, the right way to do this is on the bottom left. When we brought the Mac Pro back to Midtown Studio and plugged in a Thunderbolt 2 4 terabyte RAID, look how our read and write speeds increased. 732 megabit per second write speed, 833 megabit per second read speed. I mean, that is off the charts. When you get a new Mac Pro, if you want to really take effective use of your data, make sure that you're using a Thunderbolt 2 RAID. Finally, apart from using our G drives to do our sort of working footage stuff, we also had a client-supplied Western Digital USB 3 3 terabyte drive. Now, this I would call a consumer-level drive. Why would I call it a consumer-level drive? Take a look at its read and write speeds. Now, you're getting 70 read and 70 write, but that's really FireWire 800 speed. That's like previous generation. USB 3 promised us data speeds, way faster than that. So clearly, although it's got a USB 3 connection on this hard drive, it doesn't have the throughput speed that a true USB 3 drive would do. So once again, directing your attention to the top left-hand corner, the way we were able to use these G drives that had FireWire and eSATA with a new Mac Pro that only had Thunderbolt and USB 3, was with a StarTech USB 3 to eSATA adapter, and I got us very fast read and write speeds. Let's jump back into that studio picture for a second. Yeah, there we are. So basically, we used our laptop to record the KeyPro hard drives, right? KeyPro would connect to FireWire 800. We'd go out of the computer with an eSATA to the G drive. That was effective for capturing the live cuts. When we wanted to capture the cards from the cameras, and now with 3 cameras, we're doing triple the capturing of just the one live cut. So we really needed that to be our fastest place. We really needed to get those cards captured to the hard drive, formatted, and right back to the cameras. What did we use to do that? ShotPut Pro. If you're just doing a copy and a paste, you're selling yourself short. ShotPut Pro is a $99 program that will save your butt if you're the data wrangler. What this does, apart from just copying and pasting, automatically freeing up most of the transfer bandwidth in your computer. For instance, it will transfer even faster than just doing a drag and drop copy and paste. Once it's done doing the copy paste function, it will actually perform a checksum to verify that the data that you've copied to your hard drive exactly matches the data that was left on the card. Now it'll go one step further for you, and I can't tell you how useful this is. ShotPut Pro will automatically or manually format your data card for you before it's done. So you dump all your footage off, you get the verification text file that says, yes, we copied all your footage, and then it formats the card for you so you can hand the card back to the runner, he'll give it back to the cameraman, and the camera operator doesn't have to take the time out of his camera operation to manually format the cards because ShotPut Pro already did it for him. So that's it. I mean, it seems very difficult to get such beautiful work. Of course, we need talented crew, we need talented camera operators, we need a talented switcher, a guy or gal who can tell a story, tell the camera operators where to go and what to do. Definitely, but the technology portion of it, we got that all mapped out. So if you're thinking about putting together a concert, a television show, a studio, and you want advice on how to make it happen, we've done it 100 times. We can walk you through it. Now, before we go, I just have to let you know, one of my other favorite reggae artists is Mr. Capleton. Capleton's a big dancehall guy, and you always hear him with bands or with DJs playing behind him. But for about 3-4 minutes at this St. Kitts Music Festival concert, Capleton looked out at the audience and broke it down and did an a cappella set for them. And we're going to close with Mr. Capleton's a cappella set. Let's see it.
Come here, come and St. Kitts and a DJ in a cappella. It ain't working. All right. Ready up. Everybody know the king govern the kingdom. Righteousness are where the king bring come. From St. Mary straight to Kingston. Anything with test them I go get fling down. Make them know say discipline is wisdom. If they know are good for them, better them go sit down. Cause we have something where we make them lay down. Thing where me a bust him out big like a drum. Me no want bust it cause Jamaica we done. Me no want put nobody under the ground. We love we like an island under the sun. With them sugar cane, banana and rum. Give Shango spring water, but give family rum. Give juice the mic and give bongo the drum. Big up small and with the high grade in the gong, make me hold me meditation and blaze me chill 7 mile of white sand where the tourists run. Ask Steve signal with Chuck Norris come. That about Jamaica it no Boris fun. Righteousness the one and name. Alright, see me or no see me if you talk you with dumb. Last boy we talk no ask boy fooling gum. I see they know no more man him can't bully down. This assemble and assemble who pull it down. True him love it talk that's why him lose him tongue. I see they know him get confused him dumb. Big up St. Mary where the most fire burn. St. Mary may come from in a afraid of none. Even if them come with them laser gun. Turn it up, and them can't turn it down. When them a try my show can't done. I bring the joy and I bring the fun. Tell black people about them black curriculum. Tell them feel King Selassie the first can't done. Manuel with the salvation jump. Marcus Garvey get the vision, Binky beat the jump. Boom. Ethiopia 2000 just come. September 11 and not take it for fun. What a whole heap of glory 13 months of sun. So you know say this is the new millennium. Babylon 2000 years later out of time them a run. Round here them give it 12 something need to be done. No make them straight out and mislead the sun. You they need them culture in a them cranium. Well you are a one in Iraq. Me tell them it for done. Them a fight over violence over plutonium. Fight over heroin and opium. She say them a fight over uranium. Yet protected like white daughters and the sun. And the toxic ways them have to pollute the gun. I say get paid you know which part it done. SARS, yes, still I get gun. Tell them fish more money and stop issue gun. Them kill Martin Luther King with a long gun. Them go and kill Obama like how them kill Malcolm. Them kill Kennedy and it was a random outside in the middle of hypocrite them one gun. I go to bus a shot and tell them and come. If a boy ever try violate no one son. You hear me now? Some more fire! Some more fire! Like Marcus Garvey with me sword up on my right hand side. So let's see I in the chariot and no ride in my right. Pandy, edge of the wind, you know what glide in my glide. Wait Hitler and him friend, the whole of them a figure hide. Mussolini in the battle, he must slip up and slide. Tackle King Selassie, now the whole of them collide. In a Geneva conference, him took them by big surprise. Them gonna take the power in a Selassie eyes. Well, all who defeated everything off the rise. And crown him the conqueror, the thing off the wise. I threw up here at the ice, me say black man rise. Come off, for your pumps and pride. Sister Babylon will not stop victimized. Sister Babylon, them mentally paralyzed. Division is the name only that them provide. Righteousness, the whole of them try avoid. Gods and Magogs for a season scribe. The whole of them vex when them know me arrive. And know me I go burn out all them evil vibe. And know me I go burn out all them war and strife. And know me I go burn out all them devil device. Burn out the jackets and burn out the ties. Burn out the fabrication and burn out the lies. Burn out the traitors and burn out the spies. Tell the Ethiopian them fi centralize. Tell the Ethiopian them fi organize. Food is coming from the side, only coming from the hives. That simply mean that our bees are alive. Let me see you want them from you have to survive. Let me see you want them from you have to stay alive. Let me see you want them from you now build no vibes. Belly to belly, me see and side to side. Have to take a look in at the black woman eyes. Woman them a flap me like a beast from the hive to me. No fi struggle and me know how to ride. The 2-minute business them you have to avoid. Woman want the wheel and she want the full size. Now see them on the steering if you don't know how to drive. You will jump off on the rear side. Lick up your way, lick up and collide. When Hitler invading the land and it nearly capside. And to Ethiopia them have to turn them eyes. And call King Selassie to get some advice. Him tell them I see the whole of them most surprised. Him tell them just see the whole of them most surprised. Him tell them like to see the whole of them most surprised. Fire power water now them start realize. Emperor Selassie the eyes of all eyes. Wanna say get? Say more fire.
Wow, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I do. Capleton a cappella, that was absolutely outstanding. Let me see your oneas. Thanks again to all of our crew. Thank you guys for joining in the chat room and saying hello. We had a great time at the studio today. We hope you did too. For Midtown TV and all your buddies here, this is Jesse Miller saying, totally awesome.
Jesse Miller and Midtown Video presents the Jesse Miller Show. Yeah. Jesse Miller and Midtown Video presents Jesse Miller Show.